I'm back, and I tell you, it was just a nightmare. Until at like 6 in the morning, I was starting to get all my stuff together, and I was finally gonna leave for Boston and I boarded the plane about like 7 in the morning as the sun was starting to come up. But it wasn't completely up yet because in the south it's like coming up more later, and it was October, so it was still kind of dark outside when I got on the airplane at like 7 in the morning for the JetBlue flight to Boston, and the sun was starting to come up. I was originally going to have the sixth row next to my dad, and then all of a sudden my brother was like getting like this anxiety, and I had to like move to the front row. So me and my brother like swapped seats because it wasn't really his thing to be in the first row. Yeah, that's how bad it was. I decided to sit in his seat. You guys saw what was happening. I was also trying to wait for the plane to take off so I could get out of there. And the sun was starting to come up more once I moved my seat. And and lots of other people had their flights canceled and stuff, and they had to book this flight just to get to New York because they couldn't find other JFK flights that weren't booked. So as the rows were starting to fill up, there was just no more empty seats. That plane was like completely packed. That there were no more empty seats because that whole plane had a lot of other passengers that were not even supposed to be on that plane, like me. Even the flight attendant said that this flight is full. We had like this full house. We had a full house airplane. That it was just full. I mean, we like booked it the night before anyone else did. But don't get me wrong, we still had Boston passengers on there, but half of us were New York passengers. And I was like trying to hide my Rangers hoodie from all the Boston passengers because Boston and Philadelphia fans are not really nice to New York fans. It's a sad story but true, and the sun was coming up and it was 7:46 and we were out. I felt like freedom once the plane was taking off. And I was just still tired from being at the airport overnight. And I was like, hey, we're finally leaving. And I was relieved. I was tired and sore while holding the camera, but being tired just doesn't stop me from using the camera. I still wanted to film the flight going there and going to LaGuardia. And just like JFK, I was in an A321. And it took me like, and the plane took off and the sun was out and I was on my way. And it took me like 3 hours to get there. that we even passed by Long Island while we were flying over Connecticut, and we arrived about like 10:30, and we were waiting for another flight to LaGuardia, which happened to be a JetBlue E190. And I was not used to a small plane like that. The plane was like really small inside, that I looked really insane at it. But hey, that plane was meant for short distances, like going from New York to Boston. But I was going from Boston to New York, LaGuardia. And the plane was just really small. You know, we took about like 40 minutes to get there. And it was like really cold out once we landed. We were like trying to get our bags back, and our van was like still parked at JFK, and we had to like call for a taxi to get us across the New York City area to get our van back. All the way from LaGuardia to JFK. And it was actually cold, that the wind was like blowing in my face that afternoon. But the sun was out. By the time we got our van, everything was complete, that I didn't have to worry anymore, but I was just too exhausted that I didn't really look that good on camera when I made that I'm home video. You guys saw how tired I was. I couldn't talk that proper. And I sounded like a little too grumpy on camera. Because I was so exhausted that I didn't get enough sleep. And I was like, I didn't really talk that properly, and I was just this grumpy on camera because of how exhausted I was. You guys saw my face after I got back when I made that I'm home video. I was in here doing it, and it just didn't look right. But that video was just useful to show you guys that I'm home from all this, from like this horror show. But on the flight on the way to Boston, I got all this merchandise I showed you guys. I also got a pen that I brought to school with me every morning with the JetBlue logo on it, and I got this badge with the wings on it. You guys saw the video. And I got like this bag full of napkins. Because every time I go on a plane, I like to collect the napkins that had JetBlue on them. And that was like one of the last videos I did for that day. And at about 8:30, I was just going out like a light. That I like just crashed instantly on my own bed finally. And I slept for like this good 15 hours through the whole night, and I didn't get up until like almost noon at like 11:50 in the morning. I slept for like 15 hours. I don't remember the last time I was asleep that long. Going to bed from 8:30 at night to 11:50 in the morning. And after that, I wound up missing the homecoming parade for Lindy at like 3 in the afternoon, and they were like starting the football game over there. That I spoke too soon. That I was like just so late that the parade was like long done while I was still asleep. Because I was just so exhausted from that horror show. And I had to like cut through a wedding just to go see the parade. A 3 o'clock wedding at one of the churches over there. I even have a video of the church bells going off at like 3. And when I got back to the house, we decided to go out again to like have Taco Bell for dinner. And then all of a sudden, we decided to get stuff from 7-Eleven, and there was this homeless guy that keeps going into my local Taco Bell and 7-Eleven, and he's just like wandering around my neighborhood just talking to himself. And by the time we were walking to 7-Eleven, he like chased after us. All of us were like so scared that we had to like call the cops on him. Like to have a talk with him, like what really happened. That's another thing that was part of my Psycho series that I didn't film. And I didn't want to film that. Like filming us getting chased by someone we don't know too good. You really don't want to film yourself in danger in reality, because it just brings back so many painful memories of you. I mean, flight getting cancelled, missing a parade, and getting chased by someone. That's a disaster. All in 1 week. That we just like rushed home after the cops were called. And it was all just a nightmare. The cops had a talk with him and it was just all over. We were like dropping my brother's friends off and we just head home. So it's been 3 months now since I got home from all this. I've been home from Disney for like 3 months now. But don't get me wrong, I had this epic trip in October with all the Halloween stuff. It was amazing. And I played a huge part in my series, but it was just a great thing. But it was just a big disaster after the trip was over. And I didn't go back to school until Monday. So I've been home from Disney for like 3 months now. So I guess that's it. Bye. Don't forget to keep it frigid.